Is the iPhone 13 Pro Max worth it in 2024? Well, let's find out after this. What's going on, everyone? You're tuned in with Spectacular Tech. Right here we have the iPhone 13 Pro Max that came out in September 24th of 2021. The 13 Pro Max came alongside with three other iPhones, the 13 Mini, the 13, and the 13 Pro. But with the 13 Pro Max, you got the best cameras, battery life, and the largest size. So let's pull the top off this box to start this unboxing, and with nothing under it, I'll go ahead and place that to the side. And you can see we have the phone front and center. I'll pick it up. This was the color to get for sure, but let's place this phone to the side for now. We'll get back to it in a second. Now under the phone, we have a USB-C to lightning cable. This cable really should have been braided since how easily this cable falls apart. I'll put this wrapped up cable right back in the box, and let's check out the paperwork pouch at the top. A little paper sleeve filled with a bunch of different things that Apple packed in: some paperwork, a single Apple sticker, and a SIM card ejection tool. But with the SIM card ejection tool, it's just a metal piece, nothing too special. But anyway, let's grab this top and close this box to wrap up this unboxing. Now let's focus our attention over to the cell phone. I'll pick it up to take a closer look. But now this phone has a little bit of a heft to it, so you know that you got the premium device. But let's go ahead and take this paper off the screen. Now that's a satisfying peel off. We got the vibrate switch, volume up and down button on the left side, then the power button, millimeter wave antenna on the right side, and then absolutely nothing on the top of this iPhone. And then finally on the bottom we have the loudspeaker, lightning port, and bottom microphone. And with a quick spin we have the frosted matte texture glass back with 3 cameras, while slowly focusing in on the rear cameras. First we have a 12 megapixel wide angle main camera. Then next up we have another 12 megapixel telephoto camera. And then last we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. In addition to this LiDAR sensor that sometimes helps the cameras, and this microphone beside it. And then last we get this LED flash at the top. And that's it for the camera hardware. I'll do an extensive day and night camera test later on this video, but let's zoom out and turn it around to the front. On the front of the display we're working with a 6.7 Super Retina XDR display with ProMotion that can run at 120Hz refresh rate. And for anyone curious about the screen protector, this is an Amfilm tempered glass. These are super affordable, smooth to the touch, comes in a pack of 3, and I have a link to them in the description if you want to check them out. But what kind of hardware do we have packed at the top of the iPhone display? Well, all the way at the top we have a lot of stuff to talk about, but first let's talk about one of its most important features. And that is a feature that is at the top of the notch cutter on the display that has the ear, speaker, front camera, and other sensors that make up FaceID. With FaceID, once it's completely set up, you won't have any issues as it's very fast and reliable. Only takes a second to scan your face, then you swipe up to unlock your device. This feature is so great, it works in all different types of lighting conditions, even in complete darkness. And despite scanning your face, someone else can't open your iPhone when your eyes are not open. So don't worry if you fall asleep around somebody. Now back to the screen notch, we have a 12 megapixel front camera that can take excellent photos and videos in low light. Most people won't be disappointed with the quality from this camera. We have the ear speaker all the way at the top, with the entire notch getting slightly smaller than the previous generation iPhone. Now let's talk about the processor on this phone. It's running an Apple A15 Bionic chip with 6GB of RAM. You won't be disappointed with the speed of this phone as you see the 120Hz display in full action. Everything on this phone is buttery smooth. Same thing when it goes when opening applications that were not previously opened in RAM. As you can see, this phone has not lagged once by me opening and closing these apps. And with the 6GB of RAM, that's more than sufficient enough to handle all these apps open in the background. But if this phone is very smooth and responsive, how about when watching content? Content on this phone looks pretty amazing on its 6.7 Super Retina XDR display. And in a lot of applications, you can also go in the video settings to raise the quality to take advantage of the higher supported resolution. And also the screen can go as bright as 1000 nits or 1200 nits when watching HDR content. You have a notch at the side of the display, but it doesn't take away from the viewing experience. And last for the screen has a PPI of 458 with a full resolution of 2700 by 78 by 1284 pixels. But enough with the screen, how about a sound test? Seems pretty loud, let me click on it again. Alright, let me click on the next one. I don't see any reason for complaints. It's pretty loud and both the ear and bottom speaker are playing at the same time. But enough with the sound test, how does this phone perform in gaming? When it comes to gaming, you'll get a pretty good experience. That's because you have a large display that can run at a refresh rate of 120Hz, which makes everything smooth when playing some of the most graphically intensive games. Then on top of that, you see how well the A15 Bionic chip can handle this game without any lags or drops in frame rates. But for gaming for long periods of times, this phone can definitely go the distance with its 4352 mAh battery. Also when gaming this long, you can expect the phone to get warm, but it doesn't get hot. But anytime when playing a game, you can always expect the battery to drain faster than normal usage. But since we're on the topic of the battery, what is my overall battery health? Well, let me open settings, scroll all the way down, click on battery, then click on battery health and charging. And I am still currently at 100% battery health. Wait, if you've been using this phone for years, how is it possible your battery health hasn't dropped at all? Well, to answer that question why my battery health is still excellent, first starts with the shortcut app. Let me reveal some of the secrets on how this was done. I had this app programmed to send me a notification every time my phone goes under 20%, so I can then plug it up before it drops even further. But since I don't want this phone going under 20%, I don't want it to go above 80% either with this other notification. Because if you didn't know, batteries hate being under 20% and being above 80% for long periods of times. Charging your phone any kind of way will make your battery age quicker and not last for the longest period of time. Some companies even have software features to stop the battery from degrading faster and preventing it from charging past 80%. Following these practices worked wonders on my battery health, but how about software? Now, software-wise, I'm running iOS 17.6.1 at the time of this video. Unlike other companies, Apple is the best in the business when it comes to updating their older phones. And despite the iPhone 13 Pro Max being a couple years old, it will still get plenty more software updates after this. Which means this iPhone is due to get even iOS 18 when it comes out later this year. And that will bring so many new features and abilities to a phone that came out in 2021. But enough with the software, how do these cameras perform? On this iPhone, we're working with 3 rear cameras, wide, ultra wide, and telephoto. Now let's start with the 12 megapixel wide angle camera. Snap the photo, go to the gallery, let's see the result. In this shot, I see that they got the road, grass, and tree trunk in focus, but not so much with the tree leaves. Okay, let's try a different shot to see what we get as the result. Okay, the shot didn't come out too bad with this one. The tree leaves are in focus this time, along with details in the rest of the photo. But how about a photo of this green bush? Let's see the result we got. It took a good photo. The bush leaves are on the more saturated side with the mulch under it slightly out of focus. But how about this other tree at this angle? Click on the gallery, let's see what we get. I can see that it kind of struggled with this one a bit. The tree trunk is perfectly in focus, but almost every tree leaf isn't. But let's zoom in a little bit to see what result we can get for this fire hydrant. Now let me click on the gallery to see what we get. The color is very saturated, but the fire hydrant is nicely in focus with details showing the rust and paint peeling. But let's go ahead and switch over to 3x telephoto camera to see if we get a good shot of this Best Buy sign. Gotta hold the viewfinder steady to take the shot. Let's see what we get. I'll click the gallery again. Okay, the sign is perfectly in focus with the edges of the building, but it didn't do too good of a job with the windows on the building. But let's zoom in even further to this Geek Squad logo way in the distance on this car. And I zoomed in to almost the maximum zoom on this camera. Click the gallery, and I see despite being taken at almost the maximum zoom, it took a clear photo of the logo. But let's try zoom into something just as far in the distance like this Ross building. Gotta hold the camera steady. I'll take the shot with the volume button. Now let's go to the gallery to see what we get as the result. And after double clicking, I can see that the Ross logo is in focus, but there's a ton of noise all around everything else in the shot. But let's check out the ultra wide camera now. I'll take the photo, go to the gallery, click it again. Now let's see what we get. Not bad, it got every single thing in focus in the shot. So let's try this again one more time with the ultra wide. I'll take the photo, go to the gallery to see what we get as the camera result. And after double clicking, I can see that it didn't do as good of a job as the previous photo because only the road is in focus. Let's go back to the telephoto camera for a second so this time I can get a shot at the maximum zoom. I'll zoom in and zoom in a little bit further to the max, then I gotta hold the camera steady to take the shot. Now I'll click on the gallery to check the result. Okay, the trees are a little bit blurry, but they actually did a good job getting the words and logo in focus. But let's try another photo zoomed in with the wide angle camera instead of the telephoto. Let me hold the camera steady and take the photo. Now let me go to the gallery to check the result. And after double clicking, I can see that the shot is similar to a previous one I've taken where the tree trunk is in focus but not the leaves. Okay, let's try the ultra wide camera again. I'll take the photo. Now I'll go to the gallery to see the result. I can say this phone is very responsive when opening the shots you just took. But it did alright with this shot with the foreground of the parking lot in focus. One more with the wide angle camera without zooming into the subject. This one came out pretty good with every leaf on the bush in focus and even the mulch under it. Okay, let's switch back over to the telephoto camera. This shot may be a little tricky with this parking lot light being turned on. Let's see what we get. Will it overexpose the photo because of the light? And it did better than I expected it to do. It shows the light illuminated with the glare and the pole in focus. But how about this front camera? Now with the front camera, it can take excellent photos at 12 megapixels. Then it's able to record in a maximum resolution of 4K 60 frames per second. But since I mentioned recording, I'll record some video with the rear wide angle camera at 4K 60 frames per second. While video recording, you can also take photos. But I don't even know why Apple hasn't added the ability to pause video recordings. Android has had this ability for years. You can also record in HD 60 frames, HD 30 frames, 4K 30 frames, 4K 60 frames, 4K, and 24 frames. But if we go back to video recording on the wide angle camera, you can zoom in with the telephoto camera. Then you can go back to the wide angle camera again. But here's the thing, you can't activate the ultra wide camera when you start recording with the wide angle camera. As you can see, I can't turn it on for nothing. But how about we do the vice versa this time, like starting and recording with the ultra wide camera. Let me start video recording with this camera and let me switch over to the wide angle camera. But can I activate the telephoto camera since I started on the ultra wide? And it's looking like a nope, I can't turn on the telephoto camera. So whenever you start video recording, you can only use 2 out of 3 cameras instead of all 3 of them. But other camera features include swiping over for cinematic, then swiping again for slow-mo, then last time-lapse. Now swipe back over again past the camera options I just mentioned. You see we have video and photo. Then we have portrait with a last swipe over panorama. But we're not done yet. Since we're talking about all camera features, let's check out how this camera performs at night. And now that it's night, let's start with the wide angle camera and zoom in a little bit. Take the picture, and another thing, since it's a nighttime shot, it'll take a second to process. Now I'll click the gallery to check the result. And after double clicking, I do notice the camera has brightened up this photo a lot, but the trees and everything else are in focus. But how about something even closer like this bush? I'll zoom in a little bit like I did before, then I'll take the shot. Then we gotta wait for it to process for a few seconds. Now let's check the photo we just took. And after a double click, it brightened the photo up with the bush being very sharp with a slight bit of noise with the mulch under it. Now let's try a shot of this fire hydrant this time. I gotta zoom in a little bit again. But in night mode, the camera does brighten up the scene every time on the viewfinder instead of showing how actually dark it is to the human eye. But let me check what we got for the camera result. And I can say the red color on this fire hydrant really pops in night mode, but the mulch under it is a little blurry. But let's try another red subject like this stop sign. I'll take the picture. Hey, it instantly processed this one, but let's check the result. And with a double click, the photo is very sharp with the entire stop sign in focus. No complaints with this one. But let's switch over to the telephoto camera to see if I can get a clear shot of this target sign way in the distance. I see that there's a bunch of noise around the sign, but will that be present after the shot is taken? The camera really has to process this one, but let's see what we got for the result. And for the result, it's not that good. The whole sign is completely blown out with a lot of noise around the sign. But let's go ahead and switch over to the ultra wide camera. Take the shot of these trees while it has to process for a second. And just like the wide angle camera, it does brighten the scene up. Now let's check what we got for the result. And with a double click, the trees are brightened up in this photo, but the camera didn't focus on anything as everything is slightly blurry in this shot. But let's switch back over to the telephoto camera to see how it performs taking a picture directly at a light source. Let me take the shot, but I expect it to have a bit of lens flare. Let me see what we got, and I'm correct, there's definitely lens flare here, with the silhouette of the parking shaped light being reflected on the camera lens. But let's try another shot and see if it happens again, but this time with the wide angle camera. So let me take the shot to see what we got as a result. And I already saw lens flare on the viewfinder. And after going to the gallery, it's still present in this picture. As you can see, light reflections are everywhere in this shot. But let's see if it does better with this Walmart sign with lights way in the distance with the telephoto camera. I'll zoom to around 7x, keep the camera steady, and take the shot. Now let's check what we got for the camera result. And with a double click, the shot is very bright with the text readable, but overall it's still blurry with noise around the sky. But if it did a decent job with the text in night mode, then how will it do with this large M logo for the McDonald's sign? So I'm going to zoom in to around 10x while trying to keep the camera steady. And it looks like this McDonald's logo is being reflected on the camera lens. But let's see what we got as a result. And with a double click, the logo has been reflected on the lens, but the M logo looks decent, but the shot is overall very noisy. Now let's try the wide angle camera, taking a picture of a subject in almost complete darkness. That's enough zooming and take the shot. This bush is not that bright to the human eye, despite what the camera viewfinder shows. Go to the gallery and see what we get as a result. And after double clicking, it really has brightened the scene up. It's a decent photo until you zoom in to see areas of noise. Let's do this different McDonald's sign with the wide angle camera to see if we can see the illuminated words. I'll zoom in to around 4x and take the shot. Alright, let's see if we can view these words on the sign. Double click, and yes, the words are readable. It did a good job getting the sign in focus, and I don't see any lens flare. Alright, let's try a shot with the telephoto camera, well, ultra wide camera instead. So let's see if I can get this entire gas station in one shot. Let's check the result to see what we got. Double click, the picture actually looks true to life. It didn't really brighten the scene up too much with this one, since really the only light this camera has to work with is across the street at the gas station. But let's switch back over to the telephoto camera to see if I can get a clear shot of these broken off bushes on the side of this parking lot pavement. I'll go ahead and take the shot. Now let's see what we got as the camera result. And after double clicking, I can see that it did a pretty decent job with this scene. The bushes, road, grass, and trash can are well lit, but there is a bit of noise when zoomed in this much. So let's try a shot with the wide angle camera right in front of this tree, and I can see already there's going to be terrible lens flare with this shot. Shot is taken. Now let's check the result. And you can see exactly what I just mentioned about the lens flare with the entire light reflection covering the entire shot. But as for the tree, it did a good job as it got it all in focus. But let's switch back over to the wide angle camera and take a picture directly at this light instead of previously doing so with the telephoto camera. Will it have the same lens flare as before? And yep, most definitely it's present in the photo, unfortunately. Apple needs to find a way to fix this issue. And for the last shot, let's see if I can get a good shot of this billboard in the distance. Zoomed in to about 11x on the telephoto camera. Let's check what we got as a result. And after a double click, I can see it did a pretty good job with the billboard. The numbers and words are readable, but the pole is blurry. But enough with the camera, let's take it back inside and talk about some of these accessories. I have already mentioned the Amfilm tempered glass screen protector I have installed on this phone, but the case I've been using is an OtterBox symmetry case. Now with this transparent case, it's slim, hard, and very durable. It's easy to install just by snapping it on the phone, gives good drop protection, and you can put this case on in like 3 seconds. The case is rubberized on all sides and has a clear hard shell on the back. There's also a lip around the screen to protect the phone from face drops. And with this phone, I highly wouldn't recommend carrying it around without a case. This is glass on the front and back. Alright, if you made it this far, let's talk about the last topic of this video, and that is cellular connectivity. In the United States, the iPhone 13 series are the last models to support a physical SIM card. So with the 14 series and later, they are eSIM only unless you live outside the US. A benefit with the 13 series, if your phone got damaged, you could easily remove your SIM card and transfer it to another phone without the need of getting assistance from the cell phone carrier. But I've been using this phone on Verizon, so let's do a carrier speed test. So let me go to settings to make sure I turn off Wi-Fi for this test. Now let's go ahead and start by going to Safari. I'm going to see how fast I can load up Google, and it just about instantly loaded up. Now let's try a different website like apple.com to see how long it takes to load up. I'll click on this link and let the site load. It took a few seconds longer, but came up pretty quick. So next, let's try going to amazon.com. And this website came up immediately with everything already loaded on the page. But for the last one, let's go to the YouTube website. It came up pretty quick as well. In addition, if you go back to settings under the cellular option, you do have the option to control how you would like to use your 5G, like switching between 5G auto, 5G always on, or using LTE, which is essentially 4G. But if you want to conserve the most battery life, have it set to LTE. Also, this phone supports eSIM if you don't want to use a physical SIM card. You definitely won't have any complaints when it comes to network performance on this phone. This phone is packed with all the necessary hardware to get you the best speed and coverage in different environments, using it on 4G or 5G in rural or city areas. Now, let me wrap this video up and answer the question I asked at the beginning of this video. And that question was, is the iPhone 13 Pro Max worth it in 2024? I say a resounding yes. If you need a powerful phone with a large 120Hz display, excellent battery life with exceptional cameras, fast processor with a premium design, this is still a great choice. Well, there you have it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'll catch you all in the next one on Spectacular Tech.